Okay, let's talk about what we've learned are the ideal employee programs that we've provided that drive the best engagement and ultimately the best results. But before we jump into that, let's take a look at the real issues around employee wellness, and let's look at some stats that are pretty staggering around the health of employees today. So first of all, 10% of the employee population is diabetic. But even worse than that, 40% is pre-diabetic, which means if those 40% stay on the path that they're on, in another 10 to 15 years, they're going to become diabetic. So that's a real ticking time bomb. Secondly, and this is something that we all know pretty well, is a staggering number of employees are overweight or obese. And 80% of employees, and this is an updated figure based upon the recent pandemic, 80% of employees have regular high impact stress. And this is stress that is impacting their ability to do their jobs and to do their work. And then finally, 28%, almost a third of employees have metabolic syndrome, which is high blood pressure, high cholesterol, those issues that are cardiac enabling issues. So pretty staggering statistics of the state of employees today. And companies get this, they understand that there's a real issue with their employees' health. Companies also understand that it's not just a health issue, but that it's a financial issue for the employees and for them as well. So we found that most companies, they understand this. They understand that there's an issue. They may not directly tie all these financial issues. So we absolutely talk about this when we talk to companies and remind them of these issues and give them the details. But then we also provide them, and this is important, once you talk about the pain and the issues, you give them some hope. And so most companies don't realize, and when we went through those diabetes, metabolic syndrome, stress, being overweight, 75% of the costs are associated with lifestyle-related diseases. So this really gives companies the sense of there is something we can do about this, and it is a pretty big number that we can have an impact on. The other thing that we talk about with companies is, it works, right? And here's the other thing, is most companies get this. Most companies understand that, hey, a healthy workforce is going to be better for our business, and it's going to translate into more productive employees, less costs, and so forth. So the good news is you don't have to convince employers the value of a healthy workforce. What we've found you have to convince employees or employers of is that you actually have a program that will make some impact, because they get, right? They get there's a problem. It's a pretty significant problem. And they get that, yes, we would like to have a healthier workforce. So it becomes less about that and a whole lot more about what do you provide that will actually make a difference. And that's really what we focus on. So we talk a little bit about here's the issue, here's the problem, get their head shaking, yeah, we know. But really comes down to how do you really engage your team? And then we talk to them about our solutions. We've been able to prove that we get 4 times the engagement level of most programs. And this really gets their attention, right? So they understand the problem, then talk about that 75%, and then talk about how your solutions can really engage them. And that's what we've learned in 12 years. That's a really good way to lay the foundation in talking about employee wellness. What's the problem, right? They get that, use some stats, show them that it's also a financial problem, give them hope with 75%, and then set the table by saying, look, our programs really work to engage your team. So we found that formula to work really well. Okay, so what are companies looking for? We talked about the ideal businesses. What are they looking for in terms of employee wellness? Well, number one, absolutely big thing is they're looking for it to be very inclusive. Whatever you offer has to be very inclusive. So what do we mean by that? Well, number one, it's got to appeal to a wide range of employees, right? So the topics, the fitness level, their commitment that they're willing to make. So whatever programs you offer has to appeal to a very broad group of employees. So that's part of inclusive. The other part of inclusive is you have to deliver the same programs. And this is something we learned early on, and it's why we deliver 100% virtual. Because if an employer is going to offer an employee benefit, they want every employee to be able to take advantage of it, not just the employees that are in the home office, right? So if you deliver services that are on site, you're only going to be inclusive to those employees that work on site, right? And in today's world, a lot of people are virtual, and so you really have to take advantage of the opportunities of being virtual so that you can appeal and be inclusive to all of those employees. Does that make sense? Okay, so the next piece that we found companies are looking for is they want to be able to, they want the management pieces of it taken care of. And what do I mean by that? Well, they want the marketing. How do you communicate these programs to the employees? How do you do reporting to make sure that we know, are these things actually working? How many employees are taking advantage of it? And they also want you to be able to take it and manage the incentive part of it. So taking the load off them, doing the heavy lifting is a big part of what employers are looking for in a wellness program. So make sure you don't just deliver the programs, but you deliver the pieces that help make it successful. Okay? And then finally, at the end of the day, what they're looking for, we talked about engagement, because you're going to see in one of the next sections that we really focus on engagement because that relates to results. But companies are absolutely looking for a return on their investment. So if they're investing in this employee wellness program, are our employees engaged? Are we getting results? So those are the key things companies are looking for. So when you design a plan or a program or talking to a company, make sure you touch on these things, because this is absolutely what they're looking for in a whole program. Okay, so this is a big one, right? So what are companies willing to spend on their corporate wellness program? Now this is, as broad as you can imagine, right? Some companies are willing to spend very little. Some companies are willing to spend a lot. What we found, what we like to identify, are companies that are willing to spend enough so that we can get engagement and results. Because if they're not willing to spend enough that you actually have programs that will appeal to employees and engage them, then what's the point at the end of the day? So what we look for and what we've found, and a qualifier that we use, is we're looking for those companies that would be willing to spend about what it would cost for a health club membership. Now that's not the program we're going to deliver, but start to ask them early on, what is their budget? And oftentimes they don't really know. And so a great place to start is, are they willing to at least spend what it would cost for a typical health club membership? And so if we identify companies that are willing to invest at this level, we know we're going to have a great solution for them. So again, this is our suggestion, because you have to be able to have a budget enough to get engagement and get results. And this is what we found to be a great qualifier. Not all companies are willing to spend this, but many of them already have tried this or have talked about perhaps offering health club membership. So it's a great qualifier, and it's a great place for you guys to be in terms of what should our programs cost and what are companies willing to invest. Okay, so let's get into some specifics about what actual programs have we designed, developed, and implemented that meet the criteria that the companies are looking for and drive great results. So first, a little bit about us, right? So our competencies, so we're both a health science company, meaning we have dietitians, nutritionists, exercise physiologists, mindfulness experts on our team that design our content and our programs and do our coaching, but we're also a software company, technology company. So we've been able to try lots of different things. As you can imagine, having these competencies, we've been able to try just about everything you can imagine and tinker with it to determine what actually drives the best types of results. And so over the last 12 years, working with a couple hundred companies and tens of thousands of employees, here's what we've found delivers the best engagement and results. Because remember, what companies are looking for, yeah, we get a healthy employee, and a healthy employee base is great, but how are you really going to help us? And so what we found works the best is we've developed what we call these Better You employee challenges. So what are these challenges, and what are the characteristics of these challenges that we found deliver what the companies are looking for and drive great results? So first of all, 100% virtual, right? So well before the pandemic, we determined that it has to be virtual. Because why? Because companies want to provide the same benefit to all of their employees, no matter where those employees are. They want to be very inclusive. And so if you have a workforce, which many of them aren't all in the home office, how are you going to deliver programs to those employees that are outside of the home office? So it really needs to be 100% virtual to check that box of inclusive. The other thing is we found you absolutely have to have the topics that employees care about. Right? So you can't just run one challenge and call it a transformation challenge and just repeat that. You really need to focus in on those topics employees care about. Obviously weight loss, but nutrition, sleep, stress management, right? How do I get ready for the summer months? Things like that. You get creative in terms of the topics, and you're going to appeal to a broad range of employees, and you're going to be more inclusive. So topics are super important. The next piece that we found, right, that's really important is we always run annual programs at a company, right? So we sign contracts for an annual program. And typically what we will do is provide 4 6-week challenges. So have an annual contract, and throughout the year we would have 4 different 6-week challenges. And so what we found with 6 weeks is it really is the point where, and I'll get into this in a minute, where it feels very inclusive and it doesn't feel too difficult to approach. But 4 6-week challenges with the topics that employees care about is what we found really works. So how do we get those engagement with those 4 6-week challenges? So number one, 6 weeks is super approachable, right? It doesn't feel scary. most employees aren't ready to take the big dive and say, okay, I'm going to do whatever it takes to be healthy. If they were, we wouldn't be here, right? Everybody would be healthy. So you have to make it very approachable, low commitment, but it also needs to be long enough that you get that habit formation. And so we tried everything: 4-week, 6-week, 8-week, 12-week annual programs. And what we found works the best in terms of engagement is that 6-week with the topics that they care about. Because when you get to about that 7th week, it doesn't matter what the topic. You just see a pretty dramatic decline in engagement. So 6 weeks, approachable. It's also right in that sweet spot to get some results, right? And then finally, with these types of challenges in the corporate setting, you get people excited and they're all doing it together. You create some great energy. It's fun. You see some amazing team building. Plus, if you do some things with some social aspects to your challenges, you're going to get people encouraging each other. And again, because of the ideal companies, 100 employees, 150 employees, it just really takes hold and it becomes a real fun and energetic community. So all these reasons why the challenges and the way we've set them up drives great engagement and ultimately great results. Okay, so I want to talk about kind of put all of this together and give you some actual real life examples. So here's a company, a construction company, general contractor. They have about 150 employees. We provide 4 unique 6-week challenges for them annually. And look at this, they've been a client of ours for about 10 years now. In fact, we just had a meeting with them recently and we're talking about the program we're going to run for them next year. So it's a great example. Some people say, well, construction companies, it doesn't really matter. People are people, right? At the end of the day. So here's a great example of an ideal business, the size, local decision making, 4 unique 6-week challenges. So we generate, right, about $81,000 a year from this client. We easily get 75% margins. So over the last, since this company has been our client, we've made almost $1 million off of this one client. It's a great example. So here's another example of a credit union. Credit unions are great. We've worked with lots of them because they're very much of a community type of company. So this Secu Credit Union, 95 employees. Same thing, we run 4 unique 6-week challenges. They've been a client of ours since 2014, a little smaller, but we still generate $62,000 in revenue from this one business, and they've been a client of ours for about 8 years. And now here's just to show you that what we've done, and it can be flexible in terms of what we've found. So here's a law firm, right? They're a tax firm. So they are real stressed out during tax season, which is April and October. So we run 8-week challenges, 2 of them during that time that really focus on stress and being active and eating well. And so it just shows you that different companies have some different needs. And if you have this model of challenges, you can customize it in a way that fits the individual companies. So it's just a great example to show you that it could be pretty flexible. And also on that flexibility topic, so here's a municipality. They have 4,200 employees, and what we do for them is they've got a pretty intense wellness program. They've got staff and so forth. As the companies grow, that tends to happen. But what we run is an annual 12-week wellness and weight loss program for them. So again, when you have this model of delivering virtual wellness challenges, you can make it pretty flexible and appeal to a wide range of employers. So this example here, if you want to talk about what kind of business this could make, if you add all this up, it's about $350,000 in annual revenue just from these 4 accounts. So you could see how if in your market you just get a couple of companies, 2 or 3 or 4 companies, you can create a pretty sizable business. But remember what we talked about, from Janes Corporation, we've gotten at least 3 or 4 other accounts from just Janes. Because if you go in, you work with the company, you actually deliver great results, a general contractor has all their subs. And we've worked with, like I said, a number of companies as a result of getting great results with Janes. So this just give you a great example of when you put it all together, what the types of businesses look like, what the types of solutions are, how much money you can generate, and also if you deliver, look at how long these clients have stayed with us and how long we've retained them. So it's a really, really great business model that puts it all together.